All right. So again, I get lots of emails, I get lots of comments, I get lots of Facebook Messenger posts, and somebody sent me another clip from Right Wing Watch. This one was an Oklahoma state senator. I want to say his name is Dusty. It's Dusty Devers, and Dusty Devers was doing an interview, and he was talking about the Supreme Court of the United States and how a law called actually, speaking of LGBTQ plus community, the law the Supreme Court justice sort of validated, was it Obergefell, where gay marriage was legalized, same gender marriage was legalized, and this guy's saying that they are going to have to stand before God. They're going to have to stand before God for making gay marriage legal. Now, there's a few things he says here. The first is, and we'll touch on this really quickly, the idea that they're going to have to stand before God. They will. Bible tells us all of us will stand before God. Bible also tells us that Christ will be our judge. Christ will be our attorney, and Christ will ultimately be the one that sets us free. But the Bible also tells us that we're not just held accountable for the things we've done and for the things we've not done, but we're also held, but our context matters to God. There's a passage where Paul talks about those people who have never heard the gospel. And obviously, therefore, God cannot punish them by sending them to hell because they've never heard the gospel. They will be held accountable by what it is that they've known, what it is that they've been taught, by the standards that they have been instructed to live by, the values, the moralities that their communities held. So yeah, we will all, as the Supreme Court of the United States and all the rest of us, we will stand in the presence of God, and God will search our hearts. God will search our hearts to understand exactly why it is we've done some of the things. So my sense is, if, and I don't believe it is, but if those Supreme Court justices make their way to heaven and God says, I am against same-gender marriage, my sense is that God would also be forgiving, because they did it for the right reasons. Now, the other thing this guy says, and honestly, I agree with him on this point. He said that the government has no business being involved in marriage. Marriage is a church thing. He's not necessarily wrong there. It's not just a Christian thing. So it's not just a Christian church thing, but marriage is kind of a religious thing, isn't it? And just bear with me here. Marriage is kind of a religious thing. It's something that two people choose to do in the presence of friends and family and God. They commit themselves to one another in the presence of friends and family and God. They make vows and promises to keep one another in the presence of friends and family and God. And they all celebrate. The friends and the family also before the celebration, but during the celebration, and they make promises to help this couple stay healthy, to get by. They help this couple remain a couple, to help them with live their lives, to offer them the support and the encouragement that they need. Like, it is, even amongst people who may not be believers, or people who may not believe that they are religious. It's still a spiritual exercise, isn't it? And the government doesn't have any business being involved in spiritual exercises, which means the government has no business legalizing marriage apart from perhaps putting limits on who can be married so that people aren't harmed through marriage. For example, there are some religions, some Christian denominations that would say it's okay for a person my age to marry somebody significantly younger, and that's not okay. So, along those lines, sure, maybe there is a reason for the government to be involved. That your religious freedom to marry whoever it is you want doesn't mean that somebody ends up harmed. Or, and hear me out on this, or maybe the church just gets out of the business of marriages entirely as well. See, if the government is the one who's calling the shots and they say, okay, marriage is between two people, done. Then the churches can say, great, we're going to get out of the marriage business, right? We're not going to marry people. Or the church can say, if the government says, well, you know what, this is a spiritual thing, and we're going to leave it up to the churches, then the churches can decide they can marry whoever they want to marry. And we don't need to worry about it. And actually, you know what? As I talk, here's the thing. If you don't want to get married to a person of your gender, don't. You don't have to. Whether the government says it's okay or not is irrelevant. You don't have to. And for what it's worth, if the government says it's okay for two men or two women to get married, and you and your congregation say, no, we're against this, great. Be against it. Nobody's forcing anybody. Like here in Canada with the Anglican Church of Canada, the United Church of Canada, both are affirming churches. I won't speak to any other churches because I just honestly don't know. But the Anglican Church of Canada, the United Church of Canada, we are both affirming churches. We both will bless and we will both bless and perform same-gender marriages. But the government isn't making us do it. There's no conditions that you must do this in order to be a church. We're doing it because we think this is the right direction to go. We're doing it because we think this is good with God. That two people who love one another and want to commit their lives to one another, that this is a good thing, and that God isn't going to, oh well, yes, but they must be of. The bottom line is, regardless of what the government thinks, it cannot force churches to toe that line. And again, here in Canada and in the United States, they aren't forcing churches to toe a particular line. And they're not making individuals do one thing or the other. So we don't have to worry about what other individuals are choosing to do at all. If I wasn't part of an affirming church, I don't have to get my knickers in a bunch because two guys are getting married down the street at another church, or two guys are getting married at City Hall. I don't have to get upset by that because it doesn't impact me at all. At all. Not even in the least little bit. So when a guy like Dusty Devers, was that his name? When a guy like Dusty Devers says, well, these justices are going to face God, why does it matter to you so much? Why does it bother you so much? You're not being asked to marry, your friend Jim, and your church isn't being told they must perform these marriages. So why does it bother you so much that others are choosing to live their life the way they deem to be healthy and in a way that they want to be seen as honoring God, honoring one another, honoring their friends and their family? We are sometimes awfully concerned with how other people are living. We are awfully concerned with what we might believe to be the sins of others. But we're not necessarily as concerned with providing for them. We're not as concerned with taking care of them. We're not as concerned with providing shelter, visiting with them, sitting with them, listening to them, taking care of them. It's all about that, what we think. It's all about what we think is that sin in their life. Maybe guys like State Senator Devers here should spend a little bit more time thinking about people's physical well-being, helping the state figure out how they can provide for their homeless and for their hungry and for their lonely, instead of worrying about how two consenting adults are honoring their relationship, honoring their community, honoring their understanding of God, and honoring their friends and their family by bringing everybody together to celebrate a great day where they commit themselves to each other. Amen.